Okay. Dale, thank you so much for talking about They Crawl Beneath. I saw the movie over the weekend. I was so floored by it in such a fantastic way. I love the whole claustrophobic atmosphere and the fact that they had the you had these creatures underneath and just the whole movie in itself. I just thought it was fantastically done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching it and for those kind words. Yeah, it was an effort to kind of create some of those feelings and that atmosphere and that world. But yeah, it was tough with the budget, but I guess we managed to make it and shoot it through COVID, and we were successful in getting it done and surviving. So, and now that it's out, I'm glad you're watching it and you're enjoying it.
So, how did you get involved in the project? I know you didn't write it, but how did you get involved in directing? And I know you were also an editor on it. How did that come about?
Yes. Yes. With my producing partner, Suzanne De Laurentiis, she had this idea about a single location story. Wanted to keep it small, keep it simple. She saw a movie called Buried with Ryan
Okay.
Reynolds,
Oh yeah, I know that
and
one.
she really liked that idea. Except, can we make ours horror? Not that that wasn't anything less than horrific, that film, but she wanted monsters and whatnot. So we started developing it, she and I, and then we pitched it out to a couple of producers and Kevin and Neil Getz and his company and Steve Horniak. We all got together and started developing it. And once we had this idea, we brought in Trisha Oran to actually write it. And then she came up with all of the situations based on what we had, our ideas, and put words to our characters and brought them to life in that way. And then, it's still a world that might have been, it just couldn't necessarily fit within our budget, because we had those limitations. And so then I brought in Jose Montesinos, who is a director in his own right,
Yeah,
done a lot of films, and he knows how to make them on a low budget as well. So he and I, we really connected. I'm a fan as well of his work, and just to have him come and play with us, and we kind of he got in there and we sort of retooled the script together, and he made some tweaks and all of that. And then we had a shooting draft, and then we moved forward. But Trisha was the one that really kind of put all the words in there, and we just kind of tweaked it with my ideas, because some of the ideas I remember reading it thinking I need these certain moments in it, right? And
yeah.
I envisioned some water cooler moments, and so we had to rewrite those points in and where that all occurs. But yeah, I'm not a writer, but I kind of I'm very strong in story, and I try and insert some interesting moments in, and we all work those in. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, and props has to go to Joseph Almani, man. He carried that movie like no tomorrow. He was the driving force behind the film. I mean, this film was basically all him, and despite you got the little scenes here and there, but he was the reason to see this movie. He was fantastic. Um,
Thank you.
what was it like working with him on this?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I had known Joseph, never got to work with him on that level. He did a couple little fun things, actor friend projects and short films and things like that. And then I brought him in for a little Christmas movie that Suzanne and I produced, and it was just a little tiny part. But he was just so committed and so supportive, and he was just all in, and it was just so much fun to work with him. And he had done some features of his own. He carried like a romantic comedy and all that, and he's really he's a leading man type of guy. But he still has this. He's great looking, but he has a certain softness about him. And anyway, when we had the story, we thought Suzanne immediately thought of Joseph to bring him in, and we saw other people as well, But he really always stood out, and he was fantastic to work with. Really committed, fully. He stayed, under that car, and in that location, in that state for just an unbearable amount of time. I remember the first day was cool. You got that energy, then I'm going to play tired. And then, then there's the next day, it's like, now I'm in that zone, we figured it out. But by that time we got to the midpoint of that, he was burnt out. I mean, it was just truly exhaustion, and
Wow.
he just pressed forward. And I remember he kept saying, Dale, just keep talking to me. Just keep talking to me. And I go, just use it. Just use it. I'm right here. We're right here. And he just was so trusting. And at that same time, you look back and it's just a fond memory of the process and what you have to do to get it done at this, low budget world. It's just that passion and that drive and his just commitment. That's all I can think of. And he just never wavered, and he's a funny guy. Oh my gosh. It's just like there's a last scene. There's one scene, I hope I'm not spoiling too much, but there's a final scene where he's at a hospital and we shoot some dialogue, and it's not really necessarily going to be heard, but I need you to share some stories and connect, near the end. And all the stuff that he was saying, oh my gosh, the cameraman was just like, or camera person was, we were all cracking up. It was insane. Yeah, he's a crack up, so we always had fun. That was the bottom line. And working with Carly and bringing them together was really beautiful to see them work. Yeah, I mean,
even in the flashbacks, they had such great chemistry in the flashbacks, especially. I noticed, and that's what helped.
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And like here we are, like when you first see her, she's in this conflict with him, and then you mentioned the fact that he's funny. When she said that she's late, like he was, it just went like over his head, and even I knew right away what she meant. Like as soon as I picked it up, I'm like, did he not just get that?
Yeah.
So I knew that was gonna be like that little comic element with
exactly
with that. But yeah, like I said, they had such great chemistry in the flashback. Yeah.
And they were wonderful to work with together. And it's so funny that you should mention that, because there was a really thoughtful discussion about, was that enough? Is that clear to the audience? And I said, if it's not clear, it doesn't matter. The people that get it will get it. The people that don't will be like, Danny, you didn't quite get it, because it is somewhat subtle, but yeah, I love that, those little nuances. But yeah, just get them together was great, and it's interesting. We shot the last scene the very first day of filming, and it was really hard. And they were just hitting the ground running, but then in the end, we ended up shooting that hospital scene. We did a pickup, and the producer was like, you know what, I think we could do it a little better. It was a little, clunky, because it was so hard. Day one, you're just trying to start, but we were just under the gun for location, but we were able to just find another place, do it one more time after we had all been together in the dark, in the blood, in the grime, in the oil, and shared all those experiences. So when they were together, it's a great moment to, reunite them, Yeah.
And I can't say enough about Michael Pare. He's like one of my all-time favorites.
Right.
I mean, that dude, yeah. I don't care how bad a movie is. If he's in it, he elevates.
That's right.
He brings the good out of the bad.
That's right.
But here he nailed it, man. He was so great as Uncle Bill, and just the way he is, he just brings his presence to the screens. And it must have been a blast working with him, especially between him and Joseph. That's where I saw a lot of the comic nuances between the two. It's in their scenes together.
For sure. We love Michael. We worked with him a number of times, but he was always our number one choice for Uncle Bill. Like he has an intensity and this really handsome likability that's just, he just possesses this charismatic likability, but there's an intensity behind that guy, but and in reality, that guy is a crack up. So they're very much in the moment. And to see Joseph and him, they are constantly busting each other's stones, and riffing, it just wouldn't end. And you can feel a little bit of that in the film, kind of let them do a little bit. And sometimes you weren't even sure, are they acting? Was that written? That it was kind of like written.
I noticed it too. I like is that in the script, or are they really just improv in plain sight? It looks so natural. And I was laughing quite a bit. Some of their dialogue, it was just they were just fun.
Yeah, it was really great. And yeah, Michael is just amazing. I mean, just we love working with him. And exactly what you said. He just comes in and he elevates it. And that role is a bit tricky. Yeah, Joseph he had to tough it out and
Hmm.
carry it. But that there's a moment in the film where it does a turn, right? And you know what I'm talking about. You end up, wait a minute. Wait,
Yeah,
what's happening here? And that whole moment, I would say that, Michael did spend a good amount of time under that car as well.
yeah.
So
Oh man, it
kudos
must
to that
must
guy.
have been rough for him. I can imagine. I don't know if I can have been under a car for that long like
I
that.
know. But he loved it. He was great, man. He had his days and he was just, I mean, one thing about that guy, he's a total pro. He is really prepared and then some. And and there's that whole moment, right, in that scene when they come face to face and
Yeah.
it's like mad chaos. And
Mhm.
he just brought it. I just remember watching it. I didn't even expect. I thought, I'm gonna have to tell him no, I don't
No.
need that. He just brought it, and we were just, whoa, one take wonder right there. It was
Yes.
just it was
He,
great. So
yeah,
committed to.
he is an absolute legend, hands down. And
Absolutely.
you know, but I know I gotta say the creature effects were amazing too. And I gotta admit, there were times when when I saw the trailer, I got hit with the jump scare. I literally jumped out at the end of the trailer, and then when I saw the actual scene again, I was like, oh, okay. But then it happened, and then once again I jumped. I was like, oh, whoa. I was just like, holy cow. And I remember when I was watching the trailer with my daughter, she was looking at me, and that jump scare happened. She was laughing at me. She was like, "You got scared," but
I love that.
but the creature effects were great in this. I mean, that must have. I know you had a low budget, like a lower budget than most, but those things look so realistic. I would have been if I actually saw what was right in front of me, I'd be running the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were inspired by Tremors and Slither and those films, right? And those were these gargantuan, creatures and characters in the film. Ours were they're different, but I knew going in as I committed to the film and said, like, if I were going to do this, this is what I'd like it to be. And we needed to be practical. I have nothing against great VFX, CG, but that's just really hard to do. And I just love practical effects if I can do it. And yeah, it was a struggle to get those done and made and created. But Dan Rebert and his creation company, Creature Company, was like he loves doing it. I mean, he's amazing, just amazing. And he had some really great ideas on how the movement of them and where they can be and how they can interact and it was having him on the project was definitely, again, that elevated it as well. And we only had you know one or maybe a couple, so to make those more than they look, have them do different things and behave different ways, and that was a fun challenge. I'll say it was fun because making
Yeah,
movies is always a challenge, but working with creatures, I mean, and knowing and hopefully creating a fun moment in cinema, uh that's always something to enjoy and work towards.
yeah. I'm all for practical effects nowadays. I mean, CGI is one thing, but let's just face it. I would not spend $25 million just to remove a mustache.
Yeah.
That's just where you can just use that money on like more realistic practical effects. I would rather do that. But that's what So I'm all for. I don't care how shoddy they may look in the end. I would rather see a fake arm getting exploded or something like that, or a fake creature that's realistic, that comes from an actual hard work than using CGI. That's just gonna kind of mess up the film overall.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I'd rather see bad practical than bad CG. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And there's something about that analog, sort of organic, real thing that's there, that the audience can actually feel it. There's no doubt we can sense it, we can perceive that. And then also the actors react to it as well. There's just something real, and it was a lot of fun. It's funny because when I worked on it, we had developed it for a while,
Mhm.
and I saw the sketches, we were doing it, and I was kind of over it. I knew what it was. Slightly, it was totally different than what I originally wanted, but it was because our budget, and they turned out marvelous at the same time. So, but I was like, okay, here we go. So we brought it onto set for the first time when it was that time,
Mhm.
and the crew that had no idea just was freaking out. They were just freaking out. They were just like, the reaction was refreshing and was great to see, because
Mhm.
you get used to it, you take it for granted, you're like, oh, let's make it this way so it could be menacing, let's make it this way so it could be creepy, and then you're like, I hope this works. And then we brought it in, and these things, well, I won't give it away, the size of them, and they the people were just really impressed and had a great time. Just they couldn't stop looking, and or didn't want to look. It was just a lot of fun. So that's when I said, all right, this is cool. Hopefully we get
Yeah.
a action here, but it's where and how they react to the characters in the film. If you care about the characters, and then there's that moment that you're talking about, there's actually a couple that those are cooked up. And I knew when I read the script, there's this one moment, it's in the trailer, right? It's like a choking thing that wasn't written in the script, and originally, and I just envisioned, no, this is something that needs to happen, and we wrote it in, and it's just one of my favorite moments. That, and with the Michael Pare moment, is just insane. Those are
Yeah.
fun.
Another one of my favorites, and this one actually made my head turn, is when Joseph goes through the hallucinations and he sees the thing on his leg, and all of a sudden it just like bursts open, and you see the maggots, and I'm just like, I just turned my head. I'm like, oh god. I'm like, that better be that. I was like, please tell me that's not real. Please. It looks so good though. I mean, it looks so realistic, and that's what I loved. I'm like, I go, even though that would make me cringe if I ever saw anything like that, I'd be like screaming my head off. Just the fact that I got to see it made me cringe, but it looks so realistic that I like you said, better practical than CG. If
Yeah,
I
well,
if I
thank
seen
you.
if I seen that done in CG, I would have been like heavily disappointed. I would I could be able to tell, like, yeah, that doesn't look right that way.
Right.
The
Well,
way it was done here, though, bravo.
thank you. I mean, it was and here's the honest truth. It ended up being less than what we were hoping, but I tried to make it as gross and as visceral as I could. I was really pushing. But it was just really tough. We wanted to, the way to do it, we had to load it and we had to do all this stuff. And there wasn't a lot of let's just say blood, because the worms and whatnot, they would freeze. They wouldn't behave the same way, And I would say that no animals were harmed during the making of this film, because there's also a dog in the movie,
Yeah,
which was interesting because that was the producer's personal dog. It wasn't a trained dog. And it was an idea that we had, and we just threw him in, and he was perfect. Like a trained dog couldn't have done better. He was as if he was trained. I mean, there were simple gestures and moves, but it worked out great. So that was a nice little gift, and that worked out wonderful. But I don't know if I can say the same thing about the little worms. They froze. When you took them out, they kind of like, I don't want to move, But it's funny. But a lot of the blood and things that, a lot of it was CG. Believe it or not, that was digital. And I have
okay, okay.
kudos.
Whoever responsible for that, I'm giving him props, because
Yes.
that looked so realistic. That looked better than half the stuff, the CG stuff I watched from like the days, or even like big Hollywood stuff. You tell when it's really bad CG, but this one, oh my god,
Yeah, we
that's like,
augmented it. We had a little for color, so we have a little reference. And then I have these two guys, they're director producers themselves, Travis Clough and Chris Loafing. They came in, they worked with us on this previous project, and we just love working together. And they did some horror thing for my other previous film, like Derailed, and some other smaller movies. We just have fun working together. And I said, I got a couple of these shots. And when they saw it, they're like, we love this, and so we're putting blood, we're having it spray everywhere. That was all added in, and they just did it. And then, there's a moment when he gets covered in it.
yeah,
That was just, I was just mind blown when they were able to do that. It wasn't as easy as we all thought it might have been. It was some work, but it's one thing to try to do it, and then it just looks crappy, and you're thinking, well, that's the best we can do. We'll just use it. No, the
yeah.
thing just looks real. It just, you can't even tell. It's just amazing. So kudos to those guys, props. I hope they see this because a lot of love, like you said, and I
Yeah.
appreciate those kind words. I mean, a lot of work goes into that, as much as we can in our low budget. I keep saying that over and over, but what we were able to do with the budget that we had, thank you, Kevin and Neil and Suzanne, for like believing in the project and committing to it and just trying to making it happen.
Yeah. How long did shooting take? And like you mentioned, this seems like a very challenging shoot, but how long did shooting actually take?
It's actually longer than usual. Sometimes we have 10 day shoots, but this one was like a 12 day. And then we ended up having like, we had to reshoot a couple of things. So altogether it was about 15,
Oh, it's not
which is
bad.
actually a lot, but it was hard because we had to break. COVID was tough, very
Mhm.
slow moving. So you weren't running like the smooth machine that you're always used to.
Yeah.
Testing every morning. It was such a drag. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the garage, since you've seen it, and I've said this a few times, told the story, but those garages, we use, I think, 4 or 5 different garages to make it look like one set because we couldn't get that angle. We couldn't move the camera here. So we had to get different places. We had to put this there. And so to sort of blend all of those as best as we can, now that you'll go, I see it. But when you watch the film, at first you're thinking, oh, I mean, you don't think about it. That's the whole thing. I don't want
Right.
you to realize, where you are, even the exteriors different. It just was, that one was one of the toughest things, staying up at night shoots suck, but I think blending all of that, merging them so visually they all work and it doesn't stick out for an audience or take you out of the picture.
Mhm.
That was a huge challenge.
Oh wow. Well, I gotta say, man, this was a fantastic movie, and I'm hoping horror fanatics will check this one out.
We
So,
do.
so now we got that. Is there anything upcoming that you can talk about that's coming, that's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing right now. We're producing a couple of other projects that are coming. It's a character-driven piece about a soldier with PTSD. So we're getting ready and we're prepping to get that going before the end of the year. And then we got a couple of other ones that I just can't mention quite yet. Um, and that one, I'll be directing that one. The other one we're producing that for
Mhm.
them, but this next one will be similar to what this crawl beneath they crawl beneath is in the meaning of like the scope of it or the
Yeah.
scale of it, but maybe just a little more, but totally different. So we're looking to do another fun scary movie. That's what Suzanne and I love to do. And I have a big personal horror movie that I've been trying to get off the ground, and we're developing that as well. We'll see how that goes, because we're going to need a little more support than this last one to get that produced. But
Yeah.
we're really excited about the potential for this, and hopefully it leads into other projects like that.
Awesome. Well, everyone, this is the Blu-ray of They Crawl Beneath. It's going to be coming out, believe it or not, the beginning of October.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great movie. If you guys like isolated claustrophobic horror mixed in with the likes of Tremors or Slither, you're definitely going to want to see this. It's from Well Go USA, so check it out. They're one of the best distribution companies, in my opinion, with not just these, but a lot of the other genre films. And Dale did such an amazing job, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk about it. This was so much fun, and I can't wait to see what's next from you.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. And thank you to Wellgo too. I mean, we got a deal from them, which was very pleasantly surprising, and Film Mode, they really got behind the film, and it's a teamwork thing, and we make a movie, but you can make a movie, but if no one sees it, it takes a while for people to discover the film. So at least this way people can see it sooner and enjoy it. And that's all we want to do, is entertain people and have a great time. So I'm so glad you enjoyed the film, Albert. Thank you for all those kind words. Means a lot to us to kind of keep going, keep pushing, and keep making, and that's what I encourage other filmmakers to continue to do as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, check out They Crawl Beneath when it hits Blu-ray on from Wellgo. And until then, guys, we'll see you next time. So take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you, World Film Geek. Later, Albert.